Welcome back, Shop Rats. Today, here on Talk About It Tuesday, we're going to talk about those project cars that some of us have that we don't have the time or the resources to work on. What do we do in a situation like that? Should we keep it? Should we sell it? I don't know. Well, let's just watch the show intro. We'll see you in about 27.2 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is My Car's Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
I know a lot of people who do have collector cars of some form, whether it's an antique car or a classic car or a fat fender car or something that they have been hanging on to for 1, 2, 10, 50 years. And they don't seem to get anything done with it, or they can't get anything done with it because of resources or time, or maybe just a lack of motivation. Well, what should you do with a project like that? Well, I got some ideas on that subject. I'm sure that surprises you. And we can just kind of kick the tires around on that idea, because I think it's something that all of us find ourselves in that situation at one time or another. My first bit of advice is always to say, if you can at all possibly hang on to it, hang on to it. You don't want to do something that you're going to kick yourself for down the road, a week or a month or a year or even a decade. Now, of course, you want to have that vehicle in a position where it's not deteriorating. That's not always possible, I know, but the reality is, if at all possible, get the vehicle somewhere where it's out of the weather and has good ventilation and so forth, so that it's not rusting away. And check on that vehicle on a regular basis and make sure that things are looking good and they're not going backwards, or that there's not further damage happening to that vehicle, so that you are compounding the amount of work it's going to take to get that vehicle put back together again when you do get to it. I can't tell you how many times I've been in that situation in the past myself. One of the favorite cars on the channel here is my 68 Dodge Dart Pro Street GTS. And when I bought that car, I was extremely enthusiastic about doing it. I tubbed it literally in a weekend, pulled it in the shop on a Good Friday, actually probably on a Monday, Thursday, and rolled it back out the shop door on Easter Sunday morning, and had literally been in the shop almost around the clock. But got that car cut down, the frame narrowed, and the rear end back under it. And I was all excited about the project. But life happened, and we ended up moving from Michigan to Wisconsin for a while. I took the car with me, don't get me wrong. But then another thing happened, and we were only there a few months, and we ended up moving back to Michigan. And of course, the car came with me, and I always joked that, when I went to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, where we lived, I drove around through Chicago, around the bottom end of Lake Michigan. And when we came home, my parents were living in northern Michigan, so we drove north all the way around. So the car had literally been all the way around Lake Michigan, even though I had never driven it one foot. Anyway, and I came back to this area, and we lived in an apartment, and it was just a whole big ordeal of things that prevented me from being able to work on it. So there was, from about 1996 to about 1999, where I lost interest in the project. I showed it to several people who were interested in buying it. I even advertised it for sale. I took pictures. I didn't take the car, but I took pictures of the car to a swap meet. And thank God that it didn't sell, because look at what it is today. And if you haven't seen it, go find it here on the channel, because it's here. One thing I learned through that ordeal is to not let the discouragement of not being able to work on the project, or even the lack of interest in the project, because that was part of it, I just kind of lost interest in it for that 4 or 5 years. And I learned to just not take that stuff seriously and realize that it'll be there when I get to it, and it's okay. I was very glad that I hung on to the project and that I didn't get rid of it, and then finally found the motivation and was able to start scraping together some resources to go ahead and put that car together. Worked on it with a friend of mine. I worked on it some with my son, and it became kind of a cool bonding experience as well. So, working on projects like this are more than just the project itself, but it's also the things that surround it, the community, the friendship, the family, all of that stuff together. The second thing that we have to deal with is family members who don't understand why we're hanging on to that old piece of junk. Why it has to cost us money to have that piece of junk when you're not doing anything with it, etc., etc. For one thing, if you don't have oil in your veins, it's hard for you to understand the passion and desire that some of us have for these old hunks of metal. The second thing is personality type. Some people are just very, very practical in their personalities, and if you're not doing something with something, then you should get rid of it. It's easy with some things to say, well, I'm not using that, now I'll get rid of it, and someday if I want one, I'll buy it. Well, that's not as easy with these old cars as you think, especially as they just continue to get more and more expensive. It's cheaper most of the time, not always, but most of the time, it's cheaper to just hang on to something than it is to get rid of it, and then 10 years down the road, try to find one to replace it. The cheapest car that you'll ever buy is the one you already have paid for, right? So that applies to all vehicles, no matter what. But so some things that can be helpful is if you really share your rationale, your reasons, and your passion for why you're hanging on to that thing, and share what you're doing right now that may not be seen. To prepare yourself to work on that car. I'm watching YouTube videos to help me learn how to do the work. I'm researching. I'm slowly buying parts here and there to just squirrel away as I can. I'm doing everything I can to preserve it so it doesn't deteriorate more, because I really am excited about the day that I can get into it. And then also share why you're excited about the car. Well, I've dreamed of owning one of these since I was a little kid. They're the coolest car, and here's my vision. I'm looking so forward to the day when we can all jump in it and go up and get an ice cream cone, or whatever it is that your dream is. Keep the passion alive by sharing your vision and your dream with other people, because that is important as well. If people are understanding that this is important to you, even if it's not important to them because you are important to them, chances are they will have some more understanding over why you're making the sacrifices or paying the costs to keep that old hunk of junk. And of course, share the creativity, share the vision. I may have already said that in some ways, but I'm meaning this a little differently. Is I just picture this car when it's done and it's painted Porsche red and it's got a white vinyl top on it and it's slammed down into the ground and it's got this real good rumbly exhaust, and I can't wait until we can get in that and go for a cruise. But also share your passion about the build process and the learning process and the education and the skills you're going to learn and the way you're going to enjoy the challenge, or whatever it is that you're going to like about the preservation restoration process. That's also important. So it's a way to include your loved ones in the process of what you're hoping to create. Hopefully somebody else around you really catches that vision and will get alongside of that and be supportive and also want to help. The bottom line is it's not just about what you might do someday in the future, but it is about that dream and that vision, and also sharing what you are doing right now that may be behind the scenes that they can't see. So, for example, currently I'm in the process of engineering the chassis that I'm going to build for the Golden Mullet. And on an occasional basis, I talk about that with Becky, and I say, she sees this rusty old gold piece of crap sitting in the yard, but she knows it means something to me, and she knows I have a vision. She doesn't necessarily know what that vision is or was, but I do share it. Well, here's what I'm thinking about this, and I can see that, and I'm thinking about whether to do this or that. Man, I can really see. And she starts to catch that vision too, just a little bit, and kind of gets excited. And in fact, she'd kill me if I told you this. She said the other day, that is a pretty cool looking car. Including others makes it a team sport. and that's important. No, maybe your significant other or your kids or whatever don't want to go and come out and work on the project with you, but if they're included in the project, that goes a long way into keeping peace and harmony in the home. All right, that's going to do it for this one. We're over on the Face thing. Instant Crema, she adores us. She buys us cookie and stuff. We're here on the U thing, so like, subscribe, hit the bell, all of that stuff. And one more thing, it's really important, and I don't want you to forget.
Rock!